We're so excited that you've joined us for today's live stream presented by RVTravel.com. Today's program will begin shortly. While we allow some time for others to join, we want to take care of a few housekeeping items. Everything presented in this live stream is true to the very best of our knowledge and experience, but we are human. Occasionally, we might be wrong. We don't want you spending thousands of dollars simply because we said something was good or fixing something according to what we suggested. Do your research, check your owner's manual, and seek assistance from your vetted and trustworthy certified RV technician.
So during our live stream, it's only going to get better if you participate. We'd love to hear from YOU. So while you're tuning into the show, please let us know what kind of rig you have, where you currently reside, if you're a part-timer, if you're a full-timer, and most importantly, what technical questions can we help you with? Feel free to submit your questions throughout the show. You can even start that right now.
During today's live stream, we may show you what we like to call cool tools. These are tools and gadgets that we actually use and we believe will be helpful to you. If you are interested in learning more about these products, please see the YouTube description box for more information.
During today's live stream, we will be doing a giveaway. To be included in the drawing, be sure to include a hashtag on the screen in your comments during the live stream. So let's get started.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Talking RV Tech Wednesday, the first one of 2023. Wow, I still remember when Windows 98 came out, so that's imagine how much of a shock that is for me to see 2023. But one thing I got to say is I'm looking forward to the end of 2022. So I got Dustin and Zach with me from California RV Specialties out there. Ashley's behind the scenes switching for us, and Chuck is just lurking like he always does in the background. He calls himself the canary in the mine, so if you hear a chirping, we'll know what that is. We got Larry Lucas has just joined us now. This section here, I believe we are giving away one of the safe straws.
The live straws, yeah.
Live straws is yep. I think Ashley's going to have one of those coming up a little later. So Britt's here again. Hi, Britt. And we've got Lee and Bert Rosseo, I believe. They did the hashtag straw already. Look at that. There we go. And Larry is from Oregon. And so I did have a question that came in today, and Zach and Dustin, that I'm going to send it off to Mike Sokol. It's an electrical question, but the guy had a 1,000 watt inverter and he had 2 batteries. And so he upgraded to a 2,000 watt inverter and 4 batteries. But when it hits at 1,000 watts, it shuts off. Any idea what would cause that?
What circuit did it liven before? I mean, that would be the first question. I know that. So like on, for example, a lot of those like Winnebagos and whatnot, that come with that factory Magnum inverter, it livens on this. Well, anyways, one that we worked on recently, it livened the GFI circuit, and the thing had like a weird interruption where anytime that there was anything higher, it would pop that GFI circuit was the issue.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean,
okay. Well, and his last question, and that's one of the things of those of you that are listening, Terry, welcome. And everybody, we get dozens and dozens of questions a week. Sometimes I get more than a dozen a day. And you really have to be specific on the make and the model and the year. He did give me that of the RV, but he did not provide the make of the inverter. Yeah. And so, there's 24 inverter companies out in the country. And then there's also, you can go to the box stores and get inverters, and you can go to, Harbor Freight and Napa. And so that's the tough thing. The one thing he did say at the very end of it, though, was that he did not upgrade the wiring. Mm-hmm. And so he's just wondering if he's getting a line loss with, the lower gauge, and I always wrestle with that. Is it lower gauge? Because lower gauge is actually heavier gauge. So the lighter gauge would be better. Yeah. Wire might not be handling that. And something in the inverter kicks in and goes, ah. So. Anyway, okay. Well, let's see. Terry has one here. I have worthless speakers at about 10 feet high. Do you have any recommendations to ensure I never have a water leak around the speakers? Remove them, put something under them, new speakers. Worthless speakers at 10 feet high.
He's probably talking about like on, he says he's got an Arctic Fox, so he's probably talking about the outside speakers that are high up on the side.
There we go. Yeah. Okay, I didn't see his post before that. I'm thinking inside, because
very, very tall ceiling.
That's what I'm like. Wow.
A lot of those speakers.
They didn't make them that tall back in your day.
No, I mean that would be. I'd have to jump 5 feet to get the 10. Well, not quite that, but so yeah. Okay, outside speakers, and you're right. Those speakers are really,
yeah. Usually the quality of them is really bad, from the factory installed ones.
Yep.
A lot of the screen covers always fall off with the discolor.
Yep.
As soon as you hit them with the pressure washer, usually just tears them up.
They're marine. Most of the time, they're marine grade speakers. Yeah. So they kind of design them to be more like, hey, waterproof or weatherproof to an extent than they actually do to give you like better sound or anything. Mm-hmm. Making sure that the outside of the actual round speaker cover is sealed is going to be the main thing. The speaker itself shouldn't allow water to come through. I mean, anything's possible, but it being a marine grade speaker is not gonna.
Yeah. I mean, I would say pull it loose from the wall. At least one of them, check and see if there's any putty behind it or if they use bulb seal. What did they seal it with? Was it a felt gasket? And then at that point you could doctor it all up and then put the speaker cover back on like exact same, put some silicone around it as well.
Well, and the other thing I would do too is like you say, pull that speaker, or if you can get the grill out of it and just see what that back material is made of. Because, typically a speaker is going to be made of that kind of soft fiberboard that, would ruin if you got water in there eventually. And then you would get water down in the inside of it. I know a lot of the marine ones will use plastic. Just because that's waterproof, but the problem with that is then you don't get that good sound out of it. And the biggest thing that I've seen, I spent a lot of time researching speakers because we did some recessed ones in the ceiling in the house, a couple of the houses that we bought. And there's one thing to get the speaker, but you've got to get the box behind it. And you don't see that in RVs, whether it's inside or outside. They don't have that encasement that's needed for whatever. Mike could go on for an hour on that, but they don't design them and engineer them. They just take that regular speaker and pop it in.
Shove them right in.
And just so everybody that is watching, feel free to post any questions or comments. Like we see Larry here and Brett and Terry. Let us know what kind of unit you have. How's the weather in your area? Is there any things that you're experiencing? We use this for not just to help you, but it also helps us as well. So,
one thing I want to go back to those speakers with Terry. He said new speakers, and that might be something you want to take a look at. Some of like Best Buy is starting to really get into some outdoor quality speakers that you would be able to have a little better product with. And so anyway, Larry's got a new trailer with solar and lithium using a simple plug-in checker, showing open ground when running the battery and the inverter, but once plugged into shore, 30 amps, showing all fine. Is this all the plugs problems? Okay, well, that's a little choppy. So I would imagine, Larry, when you say you're using a simple checker, are you using a multimeter, which I doubt, because that probably wouldn't, I would assume you're using one of the small little plug-in deals like
a wiggy. Yeah.
So when he's plugging in, it's not. Go back to the question.
Yeah, it says here, new trailer with solar and lithium using a simple plug-in checker. So that would have to be like this or a GFCI one. And that so when he open ground when running the battery, using a simple showing open ground running the battery and inverter.
Is this factory installed or is it?
Yeah, or I wonder if the pass through on the inverter charger is not just letting it read right for his Chester. You know what I mean?
It should let it come through like it'd be normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
Yeah, it's the orange one.
I had one just like that. Yeah, here it is. Okay.
And what do we have in Dave's magic box?
Ta-da! So what he's getting is this little, and it's hard to see, but it's just one of the testers, and it will give you a series of what does this mean. And so he has got yellow light in the center, shows an open ground. So what I would recommend is to get a multimeter and put it on your 120 volt setting and check the outlet, because you say that you are getting it's factory installed. So let me scroll back up here. That I'm running the battery slash inverter, but once plugged into 30 amp show, everything is fine. So the shoreline power is fine. What you're getting a problem is coming out of the battery or out of the inverter.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to be determined by the type of inverter that you have. And you know, I know there's some of those you have to use a ground plug, you know, with the generator style. So what I would recommend is get a hold of your generator or your inverter company.
Manufacturer.
You know, so is it Go Power? Is it Progressive Dynamics? Is it Zamp? You know, all these, if it was stock, like you said it is, then it's something from your inverter that is either not wired correctly or is a symptom of the inverter.
Yeah.
Type thing. And I don't know enough about that to, you know, get into that too far, but that's where I go. I call Progressive Dynamics and I talk to Keith or you know, Go Power and those guys. Okay. So the next one, Larry has an Opus pop-up trailer, AquaHot heating system. I'm considering a rig that has the AquaHot 250 series heat system. It sounds like those may be problematic, but I'm not sure. Would love to
ask Kyle what I see that it's a 2018. What?
That's okay.
Yeah. Wonder what brand it is.
So we kind of touched on AquaHots last time. We don't really play with them too much. I feel like they're all kind of problematic. There's a local guy around here that that's all he does. He mobiles and goes out and does it. So we don't really play with them. So I mean, I couldn't really tell you exactly how things are going to be or how problematic that specific one is. They're all kind of touchy. So
it's a newer one. I mean, back in the old days, I say old days, you know, if it was like in the 2002 to 2008, I'd say run, but you know, it's the 2008. Yeah.
Well, and I recently, we just posted a question on that and talked about it in one of the articles here. So I would suggest going to the site and you know, just type in AquaHot and you'll get quite a few articles on it. But I did call the company there out in Longmont, Colorado. And I remember driving by their factory every time we went out to see my father-in-law. And he said that, you know, they have had very few problems other than, you know, it heats a liquid system in it, and it's all closed, you know, so it's not like you're going to it's an antifreeze kind of thing, but it's not like you're going to freeze it up in the wintertime. And, you know, we talked about the maintenance in it. And I think it's more customer understanding and education, which a lot of things are. So I don't think AquaHot typically, otherwise you would not see it in almost all the big rigs run it.
Have it. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I said, sometimes, you know, like when we've been doing this for so many years, like I'm 25 years, Dave's, you know, 50 years. I did a wink there too for you that you missed, but
I used to go camping with Henry Ford. Yeah.
But anyways, you know, sometimes we get to the point where we're like, oh, that's a bad product or whatever. And in reality, it's not that it's a bad product or defective issue. It's more of who installed it, the education side of it. They didn't tell the consumer how to use it or how to maintain it. Maybe the dealer didn't tell them how to maintain it. So
that's a big one. It's not that the product itself is bad. It's just they tend to be more, you as a owner of that product have to do more to get things to work right. And it's a lot of times you're just not taught that. So it's easier to kind of just, you know, shy away or learn it, you know, take the time, call the manufacturer and learn the product. Otherwise you're going to have self-induced issues.
They have a great website. They have a great video on the website that talks about the maintenance. And I think that's what a lot of people don't educate themselves, like you say. And then you start to look at this cone that's inside, and you watch the video, and the first time you watch, you think, wow, I'm not going to do that. But you watch it again and you think, oh, okay, because you're tearing apart and taking off the manifold and other things in there, and then you clean the cone out.
And then make sure you use the same type of fluid, because a lot of them will cross-contaminate and cause issues.
Yeah, they've got, I think there's 3 different fluids that they got kind of color-coded that they recommend.
Yeah, and they're for RV boilers only.
Right. And that's a good point. A lot of times people, it's kind of like you think, well, I can use any oil in the rig because all oil is the same. I can go to a big box store and I can get some. I can use any filter I want to, and they just want to sell their parts, and that's not always true. So the oil is critical. You can't just use anything, any type. When I say oil, I'm pretty sure it's an antifreeze, but it's all right. So Larry V here has, we're looking for an effective means of having internet for our summer travels motorhome. Dish Travelify is one of many possibilities. Any idea if this is a proven product? Pay as you go seems good. So I'll let you guys start with that.
Yeah, we've had luck with a few different things. The Travelify, people seem to enjoy that. We have one guy in specific. He's got a little tab trailer, and he goes all over the place, and he loves that thing. He gets internet anywhere. A lot of the Connect 2.0s and the WineGuard Air 360 Plus Gateway combos, you can use those while you're driving down the road. The new big guy on the market is the WineGuard makes the RV like Starlink specific one for the RVs. That's also fantastic. So it's really just a preference to you. What do you want? Do you want something mounted, or do you want like a little pay as you go? You bring the little Travelify, So
basically, it's your pocketbook.
Yeah, it's your preference.
You want a Pinto or do you want a Cadillac? So
there are 2 different types of Travelifys. One is the puck, which I have upstairs. Unfortunately, I didn't bring that one with me, or the router. This is a booster and a 4G type of thing. And the puck, and what those do is they work off cell phone towers, cell signals. And the nice thing about Travelify, and I've done a lot of research on it, I've used it out in Colorado, in the Rocky Mountain National Park, and various different places. In fact, we had to use it one night here when the internet went down, and I pulled up the Travelify and used that because I couldn't get an internet signal from our local telephone company. And what I really like about the Travelify, and I've done a lot of videos on it and tested it in many, many places, down in Arizona, and I've always gotten great reception with it. You can get the data plan that you want. So if you're just going to be doing emails and certain things like that, you get a 4 gig data plan or 4 megabyte data plan, because you only get so much in almost any of these. You only can do so much information before then it slows down. And some of these guys that are out, the influencers and stuff that are constantly posting and doing their blogs and things, they're going to need 800 megabytes for their stuff, and they're going to pay some really good money for that stuff. But the Travelify, you can customize it on the plan that you're going, and you can pay as you go as well. One of the things he says, pay as you go seems good. That is really good. The thing about the Travelify that's different than the Dish, Dish has a pay as you go, and you can start and stop as you want. You can do that with Travelify, but then you have an activation fee depending on what data plan you're at. And most of them are that way. A lot of your cell phones that will give you Wi-Fi, you got to sign it to your contract.
That's typically when we sell the Connect 2.0s with the Gateway, Dave, we just tell them, hey, go get a separate SIM card from your phone company.
Yep.
That way they can, do whatever it is, $10 a month, unlimited or whatever, $20 a month.
A big question that people ask regarding internet specifically is, since we kind of brought it up like that, is why go with any of those products when your phone can be a hotspot and you can just use that. and distance is a big thing. Your phone only reaches out so far. All these other products, like that's what they're made to do. So a lot of places where your phone may not have internet, you'll have internet with all these other products. So
like the Connect 2.0, you know, those devices too, you can hook up like 50 to 100 users on them.
Yeah.
So
well, and the other thing about the Travelfy, whether it's the puck or the router version here, you are not tied to one carrier.
Yeah, it's jumping around to whoever's out there.
They have, what they did is they went out and bought data from the top 5 or 6 providers. So, you know, there's T-Mobile, there's Verizon, there's all these other ones out there, and it just finds the fastest that's out there, or the strongest signal, I guess it is, that you're in that area. So if you're traveling a lot of places around, you know, that's going to be a lot more, you know, adaptable to where you're at and get you a good signal. All right, so Ardo Holt says, I have a 2005 Fleetwood Providence motorhome. My hydraulic jacks control board keeps beeping. The jacks are up. The fluid reservoir is full. Any idea what I should do next? No fluid leaks.
No fluid leaks. So
it depends on the style of system. Some of the older ones, I mean, even some of the newer ones or whatever, they use a plunger. You can see if there's an actual mechanical plunger failure. Sometimes they'll stick and they'll say it's down when it's not, or they'll even just go bad.
Yeah.
That's
well, 2005. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a power gear system before Lippert bought them out.
Yeah.
You know, so
they did some changes on those plungers, like he's saying. You know, check to see if your springs are you know, retracting the jack up all the way. Go underneath, take a bottle jack or something and press up on it. Those plungers, if you look online, get your jack number. If there's a model cylinder on the jack, get that off. You should be able to identify, because I think there's 4 or 5 different style plungers. Make sure that, you know, if you're taking stuff like that, anytime you're messing with the hydraulics, be very careful, because some of those systems are like 14 to 2,500 PSIs, and if you just undid a line, the fluid will cut you right in half. So, you know, be careful. Go through the owner's manual, read the instructions.
Yeah, I would even recommend call Power Gear. Lippert has and Lippert also has the an online tech training program where they've got a complete Power Gear leveling jack tutorial for owners. But I would call them first. You know, 2 things that could possibly be wrong that I've seen in the past, working more on HWH system, but they're similar to that, is the first thing is that they want a constant 2 pounds per square inch pressure. When you're done, whether it's the slide room coming in that's hydraulic or the jacks are coming up, you know, there's a valve in there that's supposed to hold that fluid at like 2 pounds per square inch or something like that. And if that valve starts to get weak and it allows fluid to backflow a little bit through there, that's going to tell that sensor. And you might even have a jack that's just creeping enough to get it. And like you said, the springs, you know, but it could be that. And I've seen where the sensors go bad.
Yeah.
You know, where they've got a ground to that sensor, and the ground gets corroded, and then it shows like it's an open circuit, which looks like it's a jack coming down. And so I would start with those, but I think it would be best. You know,
I'm sorry, Dave. The only other thing I would say is maybe has the fluid in that system been changed out? You know, usually Power Gear and HWH, some of the other manufacturers don't say it anymore like they used to, but
it could be air.
Years.
Yeah. You know, have you changed that fluid? You know, the very first thing, I guess, you back up to the simplest thing. But you check the fluid level, which, you know, I guess I'm assuming you have. And if it's 2005, that fluid, that hydraulic fluid in there,
17 years old.
Yeah. You know, it's starting to break down. You're getting air bubbles in it. You know, so.
Well, as the hoses are breaking down in the seals and stuff, even the seals in the jacks. So when you go underneath, Arnold, and you're checking to see if the jack's all the way up, like Dave was saying, it could be a seal. It could be the seal in the jack cylinder itself dropping down, losing enough pressure to cause that sensor to go on, indicating that there is an issue. In fact,
they'll leak within themselves, like where you can't see.
Yeah, and they'll the backflow.
Yeah,
the backflow in there, and you don't see it.
If you get the chance, if you can get either, whether you take it to a shop, there's fluid extractors on those type of systems. You usually have to, you know, put the hose in the reservoir, suck it all out, fill it up, cycle the system, and just keep doing the same thing. When you get all the old fluid out, was it discolored? Is there any particles in it? Is there any grainy stuff in the bottom of the reservoir? Check for anything like that, because it could be, we'll get owners that'll come in here to the shop and, my jack's bad. And then we put them on a new jack. And then 6 months later, the next jack's bad, or the pump goes bad. And like Zach was referring to, and you're referring to, the systems will get contaminated because the fluid is breaking down the hoses and the seals. And once that circulates through that system, it's contaminated. You can't flush it out. It's going to ruin everything. So you have to do like a whole new complete system on it. So.
Yep. All right. We're going to move on to the next one here. Marina says that she has, hi, my chassis battery loses its charge quickly. I've been running my propane furnaces and wanted to know if this causes the discharge. Thanks. And then the next question she put in, by the way, it's a Class A coach and has 2 new chassis batteries. So the first thing that I want to point out is that, your propane furnace, and I don't think there is no brand of the motorhome. It's Class A. She did say, right?
Yeah.
Where do you have my, nope. She didn't even say if it was a class. Yeah. On the second one. There it is. Okay. It is a Class A coach and has 2 new chassis batteries. The propane furnace does not run off the chassis batteries. Propane furnace is going to run on propane to start with, and then the house batteries, which are 2 deep cycle batteries, and I'm guessing that's what you have. That is what opens the gas valve. That's what sparks, and that's what runs the blower motor. So, are you really talking about your chassis batteries, which are strictly designed to start the engine and to run the engine through the alternator? Now, some of most of your chassis batteries are going to be hooked through a battery management system and charge the house batteries when you're driving down the road. And they'll also in turn charge the engine batteries when you hook to shoreline power.
She didn't say what year it was either.
No, but running the propane, and I kind of walking through this and talking through it a little bit. I'm wondering if she hasn't got the batteries mixed up.
Yeah.
Do you have 2 new coach batteries, house batteries that you put in? And the house batteries are the ones that are running down, because that furnace shouldn't be able to affect that engine battery whatsoever.
Well, and one of the things she put on there too, she's put 2 new chassis batteries. I mean, it is a Class A, so you can have like 231s or whatever in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
But a lot of like regular gas rigs and stuff aren't running that. So, I mean, she could have it mixed up.
Yep. Well, and I just had a thing this last summer. We have the bike ride across Iowa. There's like 17,000 people that ride this thing. And our town was one of the host.
Oh, it's a
over towns.
22. Newmar.
Okay. 2022 Newmar.
It's brand new.
Yep. So we had a brand new coachman in the lot right next to my backyard, stopped in, and I think they sleep overnight. They go town to town, and we were on Wednesday night, and I noticed it was still there Thursday morning. And so when I see a motorhome out in a open field, and their tow vehicle that's supposed to be behind the rig is in the front of the rig, then that usually indicates there's something wrong. And so I walked over there and go, yeah, we can't get they can't get the slide outs back in or the leveling jacks back up because the generator won't stay running. And it's like, okay, what's wrong with your batteries? And I opened up the batteries and I checked them with the meter, and they were at 0. And it's like, whoa, okay, so how? And then I looked at them, and they were O'Reilly Auto Part starting batteries. And the guy had put 2 brand new start batteries in his house battery system and used them, in about 5 nights, 6 nights later, they were dead. They were gone.
Yep.
Because your chassis battery is designed for cold cranking amp. And now there are a few that can do both, but they are deep cycle to start with. Because if you take a chassis battery and you drain it down and you charge it up and you drain it down, that's a cycle. That's what the house batteries are meant. But then also you do that to a chassis battery, and especially if it's not a very good one, or it's a cheapie,
yeah,
it's not going to last long. So these guys picked up 2 new O'Reilly Auto Part deep cycle batteries, and we got them on the road.
So what I'm wondering too is she doesn't say whether or not she's plugged in, and then because if she's plugged in, then the converter's charging the batteries anyways. But a lot of times the coaches won't come with batteries from the manufacturer other than the starting batteries. So sometimes the dealers will put in some cheap brand name, aftermarket name batteries in there. So I would check to see what type of battery those are. Is it 2 group 27s? Is it 2 6-volts? Like Zach was saying, sometimes I put in 31s. Have you been checking the water in them periodically? Have you been cycling the batteries up and down, exercising them? Are they sealed batteries? Are they maintenance free or not? But generally the furnace, when you run the furnace, it is a constant 12-volt draw in the system. It's a constant pull on that fan motor. So that will, over time, run down those batteries. But it shouldn't last. I forgot what she said. Overnight? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should last, several nights. So something's...
long story short on all this stuff,
Yeah.
Your furnace is not connected to your chassis batteries. If your chassis battery is the one that's dying...
Something else is pulling it.
Yeah, something's pulled, whether something's on and you don't know it, parasitic draw, whatever it may be, something is on the engine side is pulling it. Whether you have you didn't say if it was a diesel or a gas rig, but 12-volt block heater, something, I don't know, that's pulling that you may not know that's on. It's got to be something like that.
Maybe if you have separate disconnects, shut off the chassis disconnect and see if something's tied in that's...
Yeah, that's a hard one to walk through without being able to see the batteries, put a meter on them. One of the things you can do is you can pull the negative cable and put a multimeter in between your negative cable and your battery post that you just had, and then run the heater, turn the heater on, and does it draw? You'll see what kind of amp draw you got on that thing. And you can literally see, we used to do that with those old LP leak detectors. My batteries are going bad. We pull the negative cable, and you just take this thing, and you put it on the DC setting, and you pull it in there on the DC setting, and all of a sudden you can see where there's 1.5 volts being drawn off of that LP leak detector. So that's something that I think with this chassis battery, you got to find out what's draining that. I still think maybe there's something, between the chassis battery and the house batteries.
Larry threw #straw. Make sure you guys are putting that on there if you want a chance to win that life straw, #straw.
Okay, Terry has did I miss one here? My chassis, hydraulic fluids. We want to make sure. Simple way. Larry Lucas here says his, I'm just going to pull this up. He uses the Winecard 360 and it does well for everything he's at. Yeah. So now we'll go back to what Terry, Arctic Fox, 50 amp, fifth wheel, built-in transfer switch, the Victron Multi-Plus 212 3000 inverter and color control GX. That sounds like something out of Star Wars.
No, well, that's leading to the first question that he was asking regarding the unit showing an open ground. Right? That's the same. That's the same gentleman.
Okay, the Victron reports it as shore power. What am I doing wrong? Okay,
that's going to be it's going to be a question for Victron whether something's not wired right or sent out correctly, or whether wherever they wired it in is not hooked up correctly. Those Victrons they're nice units and whatnot, but they can be
finicky.
Yeah, complicated when it comes to getting in and setting up programming and things like that. So that would be the first thing I would do is contact. If you had this here, I'm calling tech support first thing. I'm not jumping, wasting the time.
Yeah, and frankly, the inverters, there are so many of them out there anymore, and there's so many different ways they can be configured, and it's it's fairly new. I just was trying to work on one in the Thor out here, and I was like, man, I'm going to have to get a hold of Xantrex because I can't figure out how this is supposed to pass through, and it ended up being a stupid connection that uses a phone line to go from the inverter over to the little monitor panel that tells you what it's doing, and that wasn't working. And they used one of those cheap little, so the phone line that went to that. So anyway, that was kind of amazing. But I would say I flip the L1, the L2.
They only go bad from condensation, Dave.
That's right.
Always in the compartment area.
Color control still reports all power ashore. And what he's talking about, the pass-through switch on that is that, when you got an inverter, it wants to take battery power and bring it up through and turn it into 120 volt power. And then the manufacturer decides, is it going to be for a residential refrigerator? Is it going to go to outlets? The one I have out here does the refrigerator, does the 2 outlets above the seats. It doesn't do the TV, which makes no sense to me. It does 2 outlets above the little love seat, and then it does the TV in the bedroom. And that's it. But you would see a lot more people want to do CPAP machines, so the outlets over there. So what happens is that inverter, when you're not hooked to shoreline power, it's going to draw battery power, and it's going to provide 120 to there. The minute you plug that shore power in, that inverter has a transfer switch that says this way, we're going to take 120, we're going to pass through that inverter and supply those things that are in here. All the other stuff's wired through the distribution center. So that's what his transfer switch is. But again, Terry, I would highly recommend getting a hold of Victron.
They're good. They're going to walk you through it. They got good information, and they're good with their tech support. So
yeah, get your model number. I mean, you've got some good information here, but make sure you get your model number when you give them a call.
Yeah, model number, serial number, batteries. You want to know what type of batteries?
Yep. Yeah, you got lithium batteries. Do you have lead acid AGMs? What is the group? 27s, 31s. So what's your amp hours?
Yeah.
Okay. Brett, who was one of our winners back then, where are we at for time? I'm just going to see. We got some cool tools coming up at the one point. I also have to do my corny joke of the day. How do you get a squirrel to like you? You act nuts. And I can do that very, very well. That's one of my specialties. So, okay, I got one more for you. What did the janitor yell when he jumped out of the closet? Supplies. Okay. And that is why I'm doing RV seminars, and I'm not.
It must be nice when you have that much time you can think about all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I have 64 years of thinking of that stuff. So the 2020 Cedar Creek Hathaway 341K, my auto leveling control touchpad by Lippert is mounted on the outside driver's side of the RV. Okay, I'm a little concerned. Cedar Creek, so that must be a fifth wheel or a. Yeah, okay. Somebody could press the buttons one day, intentionally or not, and cause problems. The young grandkids do get curious. Yeah, I've looked for a locking access door that will screw mount directly over the controls, and I don't want to do so. What I would recommend, and I've seen several different places where you can go to a home improvement store, and you can actually get a locking cover. Most of the time they're in the electrical department. So you basically have to take the box out that would normally flush mount in, but you can get one of those outside ones. And I would think, don't you guys have parts in there for doors for like hoses and electrical?
Yeah, you can cut the backs off of them and mount something over. One thing I want to throw out there is usually those newer units that have the Lippert, it's the little small guys with just like the up and the down and the hitch height and the auto retract or whatever. Like it's the really small ones. So number one thing is you can't just walk up and push a button. You have to turn it on. So if people don't know that you have to press the up and the down button at the same time to turn that panel on, it doesn't really matter. It's not gonna do anything. It's not like you can just come up and push the button.
Okay.
So.
Yep.
He could always put in an off-on switch somewhere, hit out, or like a
but you can buy one of those like electrical panels. B&B makes them, and you just cut the back off of it, and you just screw it right over and put the cover on and key it, and you're good to go.
Yeah, we've done that. So one of the things now this is kind of funny because, you know, for years when I was working at Winnebago, you know, we constantly fought with other manufacturers that kept introducing new model years way before, you know, the old way of doing it was every fall we had the Dodger show and the Louisville show, and the model years were introduced at those shows. So that was October and December. Well, you know, you can go to a show, I think, here in January in the next few months, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see a 2024. You know, these guys are jumping so far ahead, introducing these new models, and it really throws a wrench into things because what do you want to buy? You want to buy a 2023 next week, or do you want to buy a 2024? You know, you already lost a year with that one here. So I'm going to put one up here. Look at this one. She just bought a 3014. No, actually it was a 2022. When I first saw that, I thought Newmar is way ahead now. They're out in the 3014. So no, I just caught my eye. I just thought that was funny. Terry Haynes says, appraised for LCI. I was camping, partying in the LCI auto leveling control display in green, but no text. Got on the phone. I cannot say enough good things about Lippert. I have gone through their training program. They've got, I think I'm at about 20 different products now that I've gone through their certification program, and it's very very thorough, very in depth, and they've got an owner's version too that, you know, maybe not go quite as far into it, but you get on the phone anytime and they will walk you through anything that you have, even some. And what's impressive to me is that they have bought so many companies out, like Power Gear and Schwintek and Quickie, you know, these older companies, and they have maintained the service on those and the documentation. I mean, you try to get something from a Fleetwood product that's 10 years old, you can't. You know,
do you guys remember when you used to call their, like, the tech support side, the jack and slide out division and whatnot, and be on hold for 55 minutes waiting to talk to somebody?
Oh yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
They're fantastic now.
No, I get in, and you know, and they got their scout team. The Lippert Scouts are out at the rallies and the shows and stuff like that. And you know, I just, like I say, I'm very happy because you don't see that a lot of times.
This morning when I woke up, I got up and I'm always watching YouTube. So I got up and I was actually watching some videos on Lippert this morning, and I was amazed at how many younger women that are out there teaching tech support that work for Lippert.
Oh yeah, and they know
a little bit of everything. And I was like, you know,
too often you get, you know, I called somebody, and I won't say the name of the company. It was a motorhome manufacturer, and I needed to get a wiring diagram, and I needed to talk to somebody in tech support, and this poor kid knew nothing, absolutely nothing about that RV and where anything was located. And the wiring diagram I got, you know, I drew a wiring diagram for my garage that I rewired on a napkin better than this one was. And, you know, and that's typically what you get, because that stuff costs money, you know, to get the wiring diagrams, the documentation, it costs money, and you don't see, and I do have to give Winnebago kudos, because you go on the Winnebago site and you can get every wiring diagram, plumbing diagram, 3D drawing. I mean, it's phenomenal. And when I see a Winnebago question come in, you know, in my daily questions, like, yes, I can go on the site and do some fun stuff, you know, and show that. And so anyway, that's some pretty cool stuff. You don't see that very often. Update on the new system you're training for on the Schwintek slides. My Fiverr is still in the shop up here waiting parts to fix the darn thing.
So we're still waiting on all this. We're waiting for them over in Arizona to finish out whatever they're
building a new shop.
Well, and they're supposed to be sending us out and doing all that stuff. We're just playing the waiting game for them. So as soon as they say, hey, here's the time, then we're there and we're doing it. So once we get, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, once we get all that squared away and everything, we'll be posting it so that way everybody knows and they can start coming here and we can do them, you know.
Okay. One thing I would recommend, Larry, is to get a hold of Schwintek through Lippert, because they have a new, it's called a Slim Rack, I believe. Yeah, that is very similar to the Schwintek. That, you know, they've kind of transitioned a lot of their manufacturers that are using the stuff into that. So maybe, you know, maybe there's some components that can be swapped out or whatever. I'm not sure what your you're waiting on for sure for that. But I would definitely get a hold of Lippert. Okay, so cool tools. This is Dustin and Zach's to start with.
All right. Okay, so this one here is this is a pocket hole jig. Craig is one of the main manufacturers. There's other people that make them too. They're designed for like for people that are more handy anyways, when you're doing style pieces, things like that, this is how they put them all together. So that way, if you have some water damage, you have something along that lines where they get ruined and, hey, I'm going to order them. A lot of times you get lucky and the manufacturers will send them with the holes already pre-drilled. But
sometimes they don't.
Yeah, sometimes they don't. And you get lucky with something like this that allows you to do it. And I mean, for people that modify and put cabinets in or put shelves in or things like that, this allows you to not have to drill right through the face.
Yep. Well, and let me just expand on that a little bit, because that also brings up a good point when you're looking at RVs about the manufacturing style. That when you call style, it's style and rail is where it is countersunk screws versus just butting up two pieces of pine and stapling it. You see a lot of the cheaper RVs out there stapled in the framework. So that's what you're doing with that one.
So this one here, this is an oscillating tool. They have a bunch of different attachments and whatnot, cutting, scraping, allows you to do a lot of different things. We use these very much all the time when it comes to like dry rot or cutting out panels. It allows you to come straight in and make those cuts without having to come in and peel up full things on the floor, or say you're making a cut into a wall panel, putting in an outlet, something like that. You can make your cuts and be done. You don't have to drill your holes and run it across.
Cut an access hole or something.
And trick of the trade too, on hard roofs, fiberglass roofs, metal roofs, you can take a really dull scraper blade and it'll take that stuff right off without hurting anything,
Don't try it on your rubber roof.
No rubber, no rubber, no TPO, it don't matter. You're gonna screw it all up.
Yeah. By the time you need to get up. So mine, I got to get it back to the right slide here. Mine is called a refractometer. And what that does is it measures sugar content, basically. The first time I ran into one of these is we belonged to a wine club out in Sonoma, California called Gundlach Bundschuh. It took me 4 years to figure out how to pronounce that. But they would use the refractometer to see the sugar content in grapes and know when it was time, because the Chardonnay was going to be picked at a different time as a Cabernet, and it was this whole science of fermenting. So when we started talking about DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, then I had a question that came in. We started researching. How do you know it's good? It's got a 1 year shelf life. So what happens with these people that fill their 30-gallon diesel rig up with DEF and they don't use all 30 gallons, and it sits in there and they put it in storage, and some of that stuff could be 3-4 years old, and it's hard to tell. And some of the stuff that you see at the convenience stores, the more it's exposed to sunshine, the faster it will deteriorate. And so diesel exhaust fluid has urea in it, which is a sugar content. So the same exact refractometer you would use, and you would basically just pull some out of wherever you can. If it's in that 30-gallon tank, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to get out and test. But if you want to test something that's sitting on the shelf, or I have guys that said it's sitting out in their garage, you just pull a little bit of this in, you put it in. It's kind of hard to see here, but it will give you the level of that DEF, and you should be able to go on the manufacturer and find out if it's still good or not. Now, one of the things that I recommended in the article is that if you are going to store your unit and you got a 30-gallon tank, don't fill it up all the time. Just put in, a certain amount till it says that it's starting to get low, then come in and put in 10 gallons or, 5 gallons, and you'll start to get kind of a sense of how long it lasts, time-wise. That way you're putting in a less amount. And then in the spring, when you bring it out, you can always refresh that. There is no good way of recycling DEF or changing it out and putting it anywhere. So just keep it low when you store it, and don't top it off if you're not going to be doing a big trips with it. So,
or like a lot of times we'll sell them the Startron, and it's an enzyme. It'll actually reverse bad gas in regular gasoline, but it's basically the same product for the diesels as well.
okay.
They do guarantee that product helps stabilize the fuel for up to 2 years.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Just send me some of that. I had bad gas last week, so I like to try. I
was thinking of the grapes, where the capital is Infidel here in Lodi. So I was thinking, bring that with you.
Exactly. No, we used to go out to Gunlock Bunch, and it was so interesting on, just the whole different areas and the soils, and the sun comes up over the fog off the bay in the morning, so you don't get that intensive sun, and then when it hits noon and it burns off, so everything that's on the east side ripens faster than stuff on the west side, and it's just amazing the difference in it, and then you get to drink it. So that's the fun part.
Yeah, I was going to say I use one of those for homebrew, so I know exactly what it is.
Yeah, beer too. That's the same thing.
Figure out your alcohol content.
So when you come to Lodi, you can see Zach for the beer, and then we'll show you around all the wine tasting places.
The Zinfandel, exactly. So we got hashtag straw. We got private here. Time for Cool Tools. We did that. Should we do our drawing?
Yeah, Larry, it does. Yes, it does. When you're checking your original gravity when you first go into fermentation, yes, and then at the end, before you bottle or you keg it, you check your final gravity, and there's your alcohol content.
Huh. Okay, so we are going to.
Who's it gonna be? Oh, I thought. Oh
no!
I thought Brett was gonna be a two-time winner.
Congratulations.
No. Congratulations, Jeff. So if you will email to editor@rvtravel.com, and we'll have that come up here in a little bit, and just give us your mailing address, name and mailing address, and there we go, editor@rvtravel.com, and we will get that Life Straw, I believe it's what we are calling it. Great. So Terry came back with a Victron Plus internal transfer switch. It puts AC on the 1 and 2, and he ran both AC simultaneously with this inverter and 4 100 amp hour BB batteries. Battleborn.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that this is what they call a solar flex system. Solar flex or flex store. Keystone worked with Battleborn and Victron, and has put together this type of system where you can run both roof airs, because they got a soft start RV up inside those, and you can only run it for not very long. So, and I don't know, I'm not sure if you can run both roof airs at the same time, and maybe that's where you're running into the problem. So I would say get a hold of Victron and get a hold of maybe your RV manufacturer and tech support. And it was an Arctic Fox, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now that's not a Keystone.
Mm-hmm. But 3,000 watts doesn't break down to, even with the soft start, you're like maxing out with 2 ACs going at the same time. It's good for it anyways.
Unless it's got some kind of shed mode.
Not if they're running together.
Okay. So Sarah's email says, what is Dish TravelFi? And actually there are two different things. TravelFi is the router or provider. So you'll either have a small puck, or you'll have this router basically thing, and you will bring internet into your RV. Dish, on the other hand, is a satellite company. So, that's where my dad, and when I talk about streaming TV versus satellite TV versus cable, he stares at me like a dog looking at a ceiling fan, because he has no clue what any of that stuff means, and it is a little confusing when you say, well, I use internet to get TV. And, well, I thought you had to have an antenna to get TV. You do. Well, I thought you could get TV with a satellite dish. Yeah, you can. Now I can get TV with an internet. Yeah. Who's on first? Yeah. So only Chuck and I remember that one. I think Chuck was in the audience during that.
That was back when we all used to use libraries.
Yes. Okay.
Now we just go to the internet.
There we go.
But when you ask your kid, what are you doing over there? It's like, Dad, I'm just in the library. It's all right.
Okay. So Sarah says she has a dish on her motorhome. So Sarah, that dish that's on your motorhome, that is going to get a satellite signal and allow you to get TV, kind of like a cable system or whatever. So it's Dish Network, and you also have DirecTV that you could get. So the TravelFi is bringing in a Wi-Fi signal into your thing, so you could stream rather than going through, the satellite or cable.
Yeah, if she's going to do that to make sure her TV is up to date, that it's able to accept streaming.
Sarah said late layer.
Or
okay, and where are we?
If your dish box, a lot of times the dish box for an RV is different than the RV dish boxes, and they don't have Wi-Fi capabilities, so they have a plug-in piece that makes that box be able to accept the internet, which Dave probably had. There we go. Yeah,
I have one. So here's what Dish has offered: is they have what's called their Wally, and the Wally is like the Hopper in a residential version, but the Wally is built a lot more rugged. It'll withstand temperature changes, hot and cold, bouncing that you get going down the road and so forth. And it's got several nice features about this. So let's say you got set up, you got an over-the-air antenna up on the top. You have a satellite dish that you're getting Dish Network stuff. Then you have you want to stream with Hulu or those streaming things. Well, those are all three different feeds. So you would have to hook your TV up. The smart TVs now don't have to have the Roku or Roku, whatever it is. But you have to go in and change the feed through your remote to the streaming version and go through the internet. And then if you want to go through the antenna, you change your screen again, and you have to bring an antenna and hook it into the back of your TV. So, you're going into the input button and you're going HDMI 1 or antenna or this or this or this or this. So what Dish allows you to do now is to take all those feeds, and you can bring in, they've got a, do I have it back there? I don't see it here, but they've got like what the Roku was. So they got this little USB plug-in that you can bring in and get your internet through a wireless system inside, like the TravelFi or anything else, so you can stream. You can bring an over-the-air antenna in to it right through the cable here. You could do a cable if the local campground has a cable system. You can bring all that stuff into this box, and it will pull up in the menu. So instead of having to switch your feed all over the place, you just take the remote from your Wally and you pull up and you say, I want to go here, I want to go here, or I want to go here. And you don't have to try and do all those different feeds, and it's all in one place.
Voice command.
Voice command. I think they even have voice command. If I grab that.
Right in the middle.
Right up in the upper right-hand corner. So the voice command right up there. So you can do all that stuff. You can hook up so here's your over-the-air antenna connector. You can just go straight into USB with this. And then here is, you can also do Bluetooth. Yeah. So if you've got speakers or anything like that, it's quite an interesting system. I'm just looking at where is the.
So in order to get like the internet, that's the guy right there, I think. Okay. Yep, that's the one.
Just a little. So
like on your guide, if you don't have that, yeah. If you don't have that, when you go to do like say you want to see who's on the cast or crew or whatever on it, or any background information, you won't be able to access that in your RV like you normally would at your home without having that add-on. Yep. And those aren't very expensive. I think they're like $25, $30.
They're not horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're pretty inexpensive. I don't remember what they did.
Data for the internet.
Yep. We got I would like to thank everyone that helped me on my way up. Winning my Academy Award. That's awards. So one of the things I would like to just say, if anybody was watching the football game on Monday night, just a moment of thought and prayer for the guy that was
Cardiac arrest.
had the cardiac arrest. Just a little better news this morning came out that oxygen was dropped down to 50%, but he does have a great charity where he raises money for kids that has just exploded for toys and stuff like that. And, it's kind of humbling how all these superstar things, well, when something like that happens, it's just, they did it right. So just appreciate all that's going on. And so anyway, but other than that, I think we're going to let things go. It's a new year, 2023. Hopefully everybody gets a chance. If you're anywhere around the Florida area, I will be doing seminars at the Florida RV show at 1:00 from Wednesday through Saturday. I believe it's the 18th through the 23rd, whatever those dates are. But 1:00 we'll be doing that, and I'm going to do a meet and greet in the morning, and we are going to try and do some lives, Dustin, from out there. I'm going to be talking with the Lippert guy, maybe do one from their area, and possibly Keystone, Winnebago. We're going to, we'll just see how many we can do and see some of the fun new stuff at the Tampa Super Show. They're expecting to get 80,000 people into that show. So that'll be fun to get back out doing shows again.
Yeah. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you following us and subscribing. And
really appreciate you guys have been following Brett and all those guys. Terry, almost every week you're here. So
it's nice.
That feels great, and we appreciate it. And thanks for the questions. Keep sending them in. I'll be doing one a day. So with that, we appreciate everybody coming out, and have a great what's left of the year, right?
Travel safe. So much for joining us on today's live stream. If you think today's content was helpful, let us know by hitting the like button or share it with a friend.
We'll be right back here next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We hope to see you then.